Hike the trail? Check. Order takeout? Check. Schedule heart checkup? Done. We've all adapted to a new way of living. Keep your healthcare on schedule with Johns Hopkins Medicine, where your health and safety are our highest priorities. We're ready to care for you through virtual and in-person visits across Maryland and the greater Washington region. Your health, our experts, safely caring for you. Schedule your care now. Learn more at hopkinsmedicine.org/safe.
The sweet aromas of the apple fritter, cinnamon roll, and blueberry muffin are hard to resist. So making it the rest of the way home without reaching in your McDonald's bag is no easy task. But nothing worth doing is easy.
Wake up and pair any one of these sweet, fluffy, frittery bakery treats with a McCafe iced coffee. Get any size and any flavor for just 99 cents until 11 a.m. Price and participation may vary.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Welcome to the Stephen Shiels radio show. Elisabeth Kelvin is on. How are you, Elisabeth?
I'm well, thank you. Cold, but well.
It does look cold where you are. It's been flooding here in Australia. It can't go out because the grass is so wet, and it just sucks. And I wanted to do my washing, and I can't.
No, that's not possible. Patience.
Yeah. Our washing machine broke, so I can't dry my clothes.
No, that's no fun. Yeah.
No, that sucks. That sucks, but that's life. So what else? What have you been working on?
Well, I've been the last month or so. There's been something really exciting happening, and because obviously in Europe we're still in lockdown.
Still,
yeah.
God.
And we've had very little ability to actually do things live. And so, but what's happened just recently is there's been a graphic score exhibition, and which I was part of, and they had a real exhibition in the gallery. This is in Budapest, and then they had very small, short concerts that they performed the graphic scores in the gallery, but for an audience of like maybe 5 or 6, and they just did it as a series. But they also, obviously they put those recordings on YouTube and you can see them and listen to them. But they also made a virtual gallery. So you could go through the gallery on your computer. So it's as close, I mean, it's like everything possible that could be done. And the musicians that performed, I thought my piece was wonderful the way they did it. They captured the piece. It's called Breathe Into It, and it was a part of a series 1 and 2, and it's just an ink drawing. You can see it on my website, and but they captured it so well with saxophone and electronics.
Wow.
And so you can walk through this gallery and you can listen to the music, and so that's where the state of things are here at the moment. It was very exciting to be part of it because it was a community of musicians that I hadn't, and composers that I hadn't met before. So that was, and they're from all over the world. So that was a really lovely experience. But at the same time, it's frustrating because you can't be there. You know? But that's kind of how we get working around things. And yeah, a couple of things like that have been going online. Mostly everything has been going online. I've got another a performance next month where I'm doing some art and music combinations of things. And again, it's performed in a space, a really beautiful space that I love performing in and I do regularly. But it's going to be just the person operating the video, and then it goes live stream.
Cool.
So, again, frustrating because, you know, the energy of an audience is really, really important. And the energy of somebody standing in front of your artwork and just gazing at it, and then a question kind of, you see their face and their body kind of, the question kind of comes out of their their being, and then when they ask it, it just feels so good because you get the energy, that physical energy, that visceral experience. But yeah, we're making the most of things. It's a really busy time at the moment because people have also decided, people are accepting that we're going to be in lockdown in some form for a long time, and we're all hoping that we can start performing properly with an audience sometime maybe in the summer, late summer, or into the autumn. But the big problem is that as we keep getting more vaccinations, it's really slow, but the cases are rising. They keep rising. And this of the coronavirus, now known as SARS-CoV-2. So this is a problem. We're chasing it.
Yeah, vaccine's been rolled out in Australia, but apparently some European countries don't want the AstraZeneca.
Yeah, they've been doing some studies because it caused some deaths, or supposedly was connected to a couple of people dying in Austria and other places. But even though the first case they found was in Austria, Austria didn't shut down the AstraZeneca vaccinations, which is in some ways really good. Mm-hmm. So it's not, I mean, it's highly unlikely that the vaccine caused these problems. I think that, compared to the disease, and it's probably better to keep it going. Mm-hmm. But there's also the side thought that we don't know necessarily whether the government actually didn't have the vaccine and just said, oh, well, let's just stop it and say we'll do more study because they've run out of the actual vaccine, because there are a lot of countries that aren't getting it. So, yeah, das ist ein Thema, as they say here. It's just a running theme for everybody. Mm-hmm. But, so that's all part of that. I've been given my first shot.
How'd you feel after your first shot?
Absolutely fine. Mm-hmm. So that was good. Maybe a little bit tired, but other than that, that's great. So the next one will probably come in June. So I think they're waiting 12 weeks before the booster. From what I've heard, though, that once you get it, once you get the shot, you're okay. The booster's just to make it stronger. So once you get the vaccination, you're actually okay.
Yeah, there's so much lies out there on the TV, Elisabeth.
Yeah.
So you got it already?
Yeah. Because I work with children, in Austria, we had to get it. Mm-hmm. And we don't have to get it. That's the thing. I wish we did, because more people would. But we are recommended to get it. And
is it free?
Yeah.
Cool.
I think all over the world it's free, isn't it? It's free in Australia too. Mm-hmm. Yes, I've got it before my parents, and my parents are well and truly in their late 70s. So.
Yeah, look, I put my name down. I'm phase 2B, I will be, so.
Yeah, go get it whenever you can.
I'm just not sure. What's the difference between the Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca? I don't know.
Yeah, the differences I think are so minimal that I think it doesn't matter. I think anyone is going to be good. Just get whatever you can. Maybe not the Sputnik one.
Yeah, me and David Lewis were talking about that on the show.
Yeah. But only because they don't do the same thorough testing and they don't have a history of transparency. I mean, if they were this, as transparent as America has been or England has been, there'll be no problem. But we just don't know.
And do you get given like a little green card once you get it or not? How does it work?
Yeah, they're going to be passing those. I think they're going to be passing that law that in order to travel and things, you need a vaccination pass.
So how do you get a vaccination pass?
I think, the government has you on record as taking the vaccine, so they just issue it.
Don't they give it to you then on the spot?
No, they didn't. but that was because it's still being floated, the idea. And
It's an idea. Yeah. They can't force you to have it, but make it hard for you to travel, and especially if you're a musician.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah, just Vienna is so central to different places in the world, and it's such a fantastic place as a base to travel. And I'm just itching to travel, and of course, not even to Salzburg or somewhere else in Austria right now is possible. It's possible, but I'm not taking the risk. I'm not going to do that. And for other people, because it's just, and it's also expensive right now to travel because it's.
I wouldn't be traveling at all.
Yeah, so that's really. I mean, gosh, spring's coming around the corner, and Paris is just a beautiful place in spring. I've got people that I want to meet in Slovenia and in Croatia. And it's so easy to get there. It's just a train trip. It's just done, and you go anywhere basically in Europe for a weekend if you want to, or a few days, and from Vienna. And so it's just frustrating that we can't do this. But just hold tight and wait. And see how we go, because it's a great city for being around Europe, being able to be around Europe. But meanwhile, we're also going through a project that we're not performing it till February, but it's very exciting. It's the Weber's a Weber opera, but it's set in a contemporary kind of sort of more contemporary situation, and the music is being treated differently as well. So we have, instead of an orchestra, we have a pared down ensemble.
Oh, cool.
And then we're going to have some of the music coming through, but in between it, we're going to be doing some other music, some contemporary music, and some improvisation. So during, for instance, the recitative sections, we might do some improvisation. And that's a really exciting project, particularly in Austria, because the Weber's this opera Der Freischütz is it's one close to their heart. And when you hear the melodies, of course, you probably know the opera. It's just like, oh my gosh, I've heard those melodies in everywhere. It's the standard kind of traditional kind of folk song almost, but with a modern twist. It should be quite exciting. That's not till February, but we're planning it now as if it will be in February, because it's a big performance, or series of 10 performances in Graz, and so it should be really exciting when it happens. But
so what instruments are you playing in it?
I'm going to be playing clarinet and saxophone.
Yep.
And bass clarinet, and and we have a piano or keyboard, and also electronic sounds. So pretty much that will make up the orchestra. And then we have one singer, even though it's an opera, we're going to be using one singer. And then lots of cool effects and staging and costumes. Part of the performance is that everybody is on stage. So it's a bit like, looking at the process as well as the result by putting everybody on stage, which to me is very part of what I like to do, is to show the process, show the working out. And that we'll see. We hope that it's all going to work and we can perform this in front of a live audience in February. And then there's also that's next year, but this September I've been invited to write a piece that combines art and music for an Austrian improvising ensemble. And so they do half written, half improvised. It's a kind of a big mix. And so hopefully that all works in September. That's right on the edge of whether we're going to have live or not.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea will be that I produce very large sculptures made out of recycled material that will be placed around the stage and the audience, because it's just a one flat room.
Mm-hmm.
And then the audience will be given little markers or little indication, like postcards, I suppose, and they'll be able to interact with the musicians as well. And so there's going to be a little bit of movement with the musicians and a little bit with the audience, possibly moving the actual sculptures. And they'll be using the sculptures as resonating cavities as well. So the instruments will be sounding different in different positions. And, that's really exciting, a big project. But, September is quite close. So just hoping that it does work.
Mm-hmm. No,
all these things are pending.
It's good that you got a project on the way, I guess. Awesome.
It's a lot of fun. It's what's exciting now is that lately the things that I've been working on have been combining, which is what I've always wanted to do, is combine art and music with theatre. And I mean, a lot of people want to do this, but I've had a particular way that I've wanted to do it, where I wanted to keep the art and music definitions or their boundaries, their parameters, keep them discreet, but allow them to speak to each other in a way that the audience discovers that relationship, rather than me thrusting it on them, or without it being like, for instance, in a movie where it's a beautiful, seamless combination that you don't feel the difference of, like, the music has to be there in some, in a movie, or the visual, that it just, everything works. And when you pull it apart, it doesn't actually. The sum of the parts makes the whole better. Is that how you say it? It's only 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning. But so for me, it's been like I've wanted a more like molecular gastronomy, where things have been pulled apart and made into little sections, and then the audience takes their way around the different things. And I was doing this in music for a long time with some of my composition and the music that I was choosing to play for a number of years, making, rather than a big whoosh of sound, I pull it all out, squeeze it all out, lots of space. And then I thought, well, what's the logical extension to this? Add more stuff. So add more art, add more speaking, add more text, and then pull that apart. So you've got this massive kind of like a dough that starts to get the holes in it, and you see what's underneath the dough, or, curtains being parted, but there's another curtain and another curtain. That kind of sounds sensual, I suppose, and organic. And so through that, I've been discovering more and more connections that I find fascinating between art and music. And because I'm very interested in the audience's participation, I'm not really interested in whether they like or don't like it. So I'm not making something that I think, oh, they'll love this. I'm not doing it from that perspective, but I'm doing it from the perspective of obviously what I want to hear and see and feel and sense, but also with the perspective that humans love connections. So if I can do anything to give them a moment where they have a connection between one thing and another, I feel like I've done something worthwhile. So, but there's no way that you can put the most simplest connection. You can put a minor chord next to a really sad face, and people associate minor with sad often, But there will be plenty of people who will have no idea what you're talking about. They will not make, and that's like such for us as musicians. That's such an obvious thing. Or you hear the diminished arpeggiated chord, and there's danger ahead. But for some people, even if they've heard that in cartoons through to contemporary movies, they still won't make that connection. It may go in, but it doesn't come through as a conscious understanding or an appreciation of historically why that happened. So I think that's all very interesting too. And just as a little sideline, it just reminded me of the diminished arpeggiation. How the old silent movies used to have a railroad track and the damsel in distress tied down by the villain, and then you had the arpeggiated diminished chord. And that's actually an Australian concept of tying the person down on the railroad track. When they were building the railroad in the Garn, they used to do that to people just for fun.
Yeah, I mean, diminished chords always have a lot of tension in them. That's what I studied.
Well, they do, because they've got they do for us, because we have a very early understanding when we listen to tonal music through nursery rhyme as a child. We hear the need or the progress that the music seems to want to make into a resolution. So we feel that tension. But somebody who's never heard tonal music, who's only heard maybe music that is, it's rare, but somebody who's only heard music that has maybe only pentatonic kind of tonality or pentatonic sounds, they may not necessarily hear it as a tension. They may just hear it as we hear a progression. And then what does a tone deaf person hear when they hear an arpeggiated diminished tone? So, or arpeggiated chord. So we hear it, definitely. We hear a tension. And the beauty of us as composers is we can play with that. We know we can mold that and change that, and we can resolve it in an unusual, unexpected way, or we can avoid it, and then we can push it in and do things with it. But it's not universal like humans need to eat or humans need to breathe air, but it's I suppose it would be a nurtured thing that has become something of our nature, the nature of our nature, in a way. Just like people think of, wish I had a piano here, the major seventh chord, it's a love chord. Or the augmented arpeggio has another feeling which is so different than the diminished. But then you get the idea of just two notes or one note. I mean, for instance, what I find fascinating is I can't remember who wrote the music for the Stanley Kubrick, his final film, Eyes Wide Shut. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Not yet.
Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. It's back a bit, but it was his final movie. It's not that good a movie compared to some of his other wonderful movies. But the music was really interesting. He always chose music. Stanley Kubrick has always chosen music that just absolutely fits. Like you couldn't imagine any other way. Like the 2000 Space Odyssey, you can't imagine any other music than the Ligeti or the Strauss. It's just so perfect in that. In the Eyes Wide Shut, he uses one note, and it just drives you up the wall. He fills one note with tension, and he just hits it. It's on the piano. I think it's a high E or something, and it's not even fast. It's just every so often, boom, 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 and it's just there. And then something is going to happen. He just puts it up an octave and back down again. It's like, woo! it's electric. For one note, he can make one note work. Now, of course, it is the film that's creating the tension. If you take that note away, you'd just be going, "Come on, get on with it." But when you add that to the visual and the story, the narrative, the whole thing just is completely captivating.
So this is Stanley Kubrick, was it?
Yeah, and wonderful, wonderful. All his films, I think, are wonderful. They are wonderful. I don't have to think it. It's understood. He's such a. For me, what I appreciate so much about his music is so much about his film is his choice of music. And absolutely, mate. But using that one note. And I mean, if you think about, I'm sure when you first saw Jaws, you were scared.
A little bit. I got more scared in the movie The Exorcism of Emily Rose, actually, and The Conjuring.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't seen that, but
well, it's very horror. The Exorcism of Emily Rose. My orchestration teacher worked on that in Hollywood. It's a horror movie about a woman who got possessed. You can check it out. It's on, anyway, it's I've never really been a horror fan, but there's so much tension in it, just so low in the mix. It's scary stuff.
That's Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Yeah, it's a real movie.
I'll check that out. Yeah, so I mean, I really appreciate the way music and movie, because that's what you do a lot of, isn't it? The movie music. And what is your approach to it? Do you like the idea that do you work with the music as something that becomes kind of invisible, or do you work with the music in a way, or with the film, that the music becomes the enhancer of something?
The music becomes the enhancer of something, and on the film, on the picture as well. On the film, yeah.
So do you get a film and then you work with the sound after you've seen the visual, I presume? Work?
I always do a spotting session first to decide, okay, is it a comedy or is it an animation? Is it a horror? Is it a kids?
Yeah.
I get my idea, okay.
Makes a big difference, I suppose, the difference between genre. But do you ever have two particular possibilities and you can't decide which one you're going to make?
I have, but sometimes I've got to go with my gut instinct.
Yeah.
Because I haven't had any paid work as a composer, but I do have a portfolio built up as well. So it's been excellent to experiment and try new stuff out.
Yeah. Have you ever made your own films?
No, I made my own music videos. As you can check them out on YouTube.
Yeah, I've seen those. I was just wondering if you'd gone for a.
No, I'd like to do something one day. Animated video. Always got these ideas.
Yeah.
But
I was looking at just recently the most recent movie of Frank Zappa. And it's a fantastic movie if you can get it. It's I can't remember how much it costs, but it's really, really worthwhile. And he has a long section of the guy who, and I can't remember his name, but the guy who did his claymation while he's playing, and he did all the claymation for some of the Baby Snakes movie as well. And it's just amazing to watch the work. It's incredible. I think that's some of the most amazing and intricate understanding of what it means, what motion really means. And that tiny, tiny movement, and a photo. But that's something has interested me, that stop motion. And the reason that I particularly find it fascinating is that when you're looking at a film, you're really not seeing a continuous motion. You're seeing the illusion of that. And in dance, in live dance or live movement, you are seeing continuous motion, even when the person makes, movements that look like they're, a robotic kind of movements. There is no way to get your hand from here to here without a continuous motion. So one medium is desperately trying to make flow, like claymation or animation or in film in general. And then another genre right now has so many, in dance, has so many types of dance styles that use the, movement of the body in a twitchy kind of way or a popping kind of way, as if to say, no, the body is not in constant motion, it's in stop motion. And I find that fascinating that these two media are trying to do exactly the opposite to what they're supposed to do. And in music, we can do both. And that's what's so exciting about it, is we can actually create, like you would in your film music, you can enhance a movement, but you can also create music that will make it seem more stop and start.
You should check out my latest album and my latest single. My album Armageddon and Hero. I've written it for an orchestra as well.
Cool, very cool. Yeah, I will do that. Then there was, what else was happening? Oh yes, I got my little, because I do little tiny films. I don't do anything very. Well, it's all in-house. It's all me doing little tiny videos of things, and with the music. And the last one I did, the Bad Bird Nightmares series, that got nominated for two short film categories in a film festival. Didn't win, but they got nominated, which was really cool. And what's really nice about animation is that when you're doing something with music, you kind of have to say, right, I'm going to do a 3-minute, a pop song, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 30 seconds or whatever, or I'm going to do a 10-minute, or I'm going to blow it out into something 25 minutes. But with film, you can do a 1-minute thing and it can just explode out onto the screen. So like my Bad Bird Nightmares, it's only 1 minute long, but it's frightening, and it takes you completely, well, I think it does. And I've had people comment that it takes you, sucks you completely in, and then it kind of drops you out in another place. And in 60 seconds, that's a pretty exciting thing to do. And that's part of a 3-part series. The middle part is a bit longer, it takes 4 minutes. So that's the epic version. And then the last one, I think, is a couple of minutes long. But you can check that out on YouTube, Bad Bird Nightmares, and because it's all there. But it's really, I find it a really exciting thing to use the visual with the music, and it changes your concept of space as well, because you're looking at dimensional space and depth and tension, different types of space in terms of tension. And then you can play with that with the music as well. So yeah, it's I think it's a very interesting place to go. From my point of view, I like the idea that if somebody wants to listen to my music, and then they get a visual to help, if it gives them more significance or it helps them make more connections, then that's when I think, okay, it might be a good idea to put this music that I've written or this music that I've played to a visual, give it a visual context. I don't know about you, but I find some of the most boring things to watch is on video, a person on stage just playing their instrument. It's like, it's just, I'm so done with that. And at first, when people started, making their videos all zoopy and changing things and or adding, inserts, and because they could, because iMovie would let you do it, I thought, oh, that's just so, that's really trashing the whole purity of the music, or the whole concept of concentrating on this complex music. But now I think go for it. The more drippy and oozy and whatever you can do your visuals, to me, is go for it. And so that's been the part of the concept that I've worked with in my little videos as well, is trying to get just push the boundaries of the sound so that it's almost like you're being distracted by the visuals as opposed to the music enhancing the visuals. So there's a tension there that builds up in a way that, and when I do that, I find that I can do that in short bursts. It actually works better as a short narrative or a short work rather than something that may go for half an hour or something. It was 2 years ago now. Maybe it was last year. Yes, it was last year. These years are starting to roll because of this horrible virus. My improvising ensemble, free improv ensemble, Gentle Inquiry, performed a piece, or basically it was a half hour of performance. And then we added a little bit of, because we couldn't do it for a live audience, we added a little bit of electronic treatment, just very light, very, very gentle. And then I added a video to it. And the video is not particularly, it's more like a music video. It's not particularly dynamic, I suppose. It's more about the just watching the experience rather than kind of getting involved with the experience. But the music was really fun. The theme was, again, it was along the Breathe Into It series, but it was just called Breathe, Oxygen is Sexy. And it was just done before the coronavirus hit. And then we produced it, and then it was ready for last April or May. And that's on YouTube as well. And the whole sound is just out there. It doesn't give you any time, or it doesn't give you any particular focus. The music kind of fades in and out, kind of like breathing. You don't notice it. Same with the images. I was working with images that just like they're there, and you could ignore it. Then suddenly something happens, and then what was that? Nothing. Don't worry. As you were, just keep going. Just keep breathing. And it turned out to be a really wonderful piece, and it's about half an hour long. So that was unusual, that the whole thing could actually work in such a long time, and it hangs together. But generally speaking, most of my things are short and spiky.
Cool. Sounds like you're having fun.
Yeah, it's good. It's again, it's always a struggle, isn't it, to be an artist or a musician and try and get people to pay for your work. That's the big journey that we have to keep making. There are a lot of people who will try and scam you, as you've probably already discovered. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of people who will say they're giving you an opportunity, and then it's not an opportunity. I just read recently, it was not to do with composition, but it was so typical of what happens all over the world. But in Australia, I particularly resonated with me. Somebody was putting up on one of those Facebook groups on music and music teaching, and in Australia, somebody put up a little ad saying, wanted teacher, clarinet teacher, or woodwind teacher, $30 an hour. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what is that? I mean, that is just so degrading. I mean, there's money involved, yes, and it's better maybe than, flipping hamburgers or babysitting or, apprentice mechanic. But hello, imagine, the amount of money and time that you've spent as a musician and you've spent on your lessons, even as a beginner, you were probably paying more than 30 for your lessons. And here they are asking a professional teacher to teach for $30 an hour.
That's something that I charge, or not an hour, I charge that half an hour.
Exactly, at least. I mean, when I was living in Australia up to 2015, then we moved to Vienna, but I was charging, depending on the type of group even, I'd be easily charging 150 just for, a tutorial at least. And private lessons were never less than $75 an hour. It's just, you'd never do that. It's just, why would you bother? It's too much work.
Trouble is, at the moment, the demand's not there for music lessons, but it'll pick up soon. At the moment,
Zoom is very hard. Online is very hard to give lessons too.
Well, with my company, I'm still experimenting what's working and what's not.
Yeah, there are lots of different approaches, but I think the most important, from what I remember, I mean, I don't do much teaching anymore. It's more, luckily in some ways, because I did it for many years, and I'm happy not to do it. The most important thing is the word of mouth. I mean, that's just everything. And that may not be the everything for, as a composer, or although it's important too. It's just people talking about your work, and, they're a great teacher. They're a great teacher. Go to them. That to me was like 95% of my work was from references from other people.
How many students were you getting? Were you busy?
Yeah, at one point I had, for a number of years, I had between 40 and 60 students.
Shit, that's a lot.
I was teaching privately. And then when I was working at the Tasmanian Conservatorium, I had about quite a lot, actually. I think I had 14 students, but that's, when you have that, you're also doing seminars with them and workshops with them, and you see them, maybe, well, you certainly see them an hour a week, but you also see them with other things. So I had about 14 plus another maybe 20 little private primary or high school level students. But yeah, what's interesting is that when I moved we lived in Tamworth for a number of years, never had a problem getting students. It was just, people were just racing to them, because a lot of people in Tamworth, I'm not saying it's happening now, or any other country town, a lot of people weren't really qualified to teach, but they'd been doing it because they played the instrument for so many years, and that was their understanding that if I love my instrument, I've been doing it for 30 years, I might as well, share this with the young ones, giving them shockingly bad habits, of course. I'm not saying any names, or I'm not, it's just a general thing that you've probably encountered yourself. And so you bring in a professional, and everyone goes, oh my gosh, what a difference. They can hear the difference in the child's progress in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's like, and of course the enthusiasm, because if a child is, or an adult too, is capable of doing something after they've been shown and it's demonstrated that it's possible, what more motivation do you need to practice? It's so exciting. And but yeah, then when I moved to Sydney in 2010 or 11, I think, I moved there with. I actually moved there because we wanted to move to Sydney, just to get into a bigger city, and family reasons as well. But I found a job that was just 1 hour a week, just conducting a band, a little school band. And I thought, well, I know me, and it was a big gamble, but I thought, I'll get students from this. They'll come to me, and they did. And within about, I'd say, 2 months, I had 40 students. It got to the point where I had about I had 30 hours a week of teaching.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Solid, and that was way too much. I don't recommend it. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it was good because the money was very good. And in those days, back in the teens, mm-hmm. back in the last century, it was good because people were valuing it. I think things have changed because now a lot of people think that if you go online, you can get online lessons for free, and you can look up things on the internet and you can find stuff out. And probably, I hate to say it, but I think it's true. I think that people are able to get a lot from the internet. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I wanted to pick up the trombone or the euphonium or something, I wouldn't have to go. I mean, I know I've got a music background, or pick up the harp. I could go and just look on YouTube and get my harp and buy a harp online, get my little lesson online, maybe talk to a few harpists, join a Facebook group and say, hey, I've got a harp, can you help me with this? It's possible. It's such a, it's completely possible. Mm. So that's the problem. That's the thing that as a private music teacher, that's what you're going to be fighting against. So yeah.
It's worth a try. Other than that, I like your painting in the background.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's part of a series. I love series, as you can see. I've done a couple of things that are to do with. I want the eyes to feel like sometimes they're screaming. Mm-hmm. Or bleeding. I mean, this is a really pretty one in the background, but I've got one where the colours very, very contrasting, like it's super contrasting. And so the painting is, I can describe it as loud. And so I'm using sound and music to inspire me to do paintings. And yeah, it's I've got also actually in the on my website, there's a little article about sound and music and some really beautiful paintings there that are based on Ornette Coleman's harmonic theory. And you're familiar with Ornette Coleman, I'm sure. And he had this idea of chords. When people play jazz, they can play chords. They play all the same ones. You have a standard chart and you play, All of Me or whatever. But his concept was that these chords can progress in the fashion that they're all happening at the same time, or all happening, and everyone's getting the same chords, the same chart. But you don't have to always play them at the same time. So you get this interweaving of a definite progression with an indefinite time frame. And so I transferred that to colour. And it was one of those kind of moments where I was listening to a lot of Ornette Coleman at the time. And, I think I went to hear him play his last concert in Australia, in Sydney. He was at the Opera House. Yeah. And his son was playing bass, and it was absolutely fabulous, like incredible. He would have been well and truly in his 80s, but he shuffled out onto the stage and shuffles out, and then just suddenly it was just crazy stuff. And it just the whole performance was absolutely fantastic. So I was listening.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the podcast, and thank you to the sponsors Grammarly Premium, vidIQ, TubeBuddy, and Amazon Music Unlimited. If you want your free trial of Amazon Music Unlimited, click on the link to my website to find out more. Don't forget, new podcasts are out every Friday, so turn on those notifications and subscribe to it. You can send a donation to my GoFundMe page as well. See you later.
Simplify your federal agency's technology procurement with Connection Public Sector Solutions. Connection's dedicated account managers, commitment to exceptional customer service, and extensive catalog of federal contracts make IT purchases quick, easy, and affordable. Turn your challenges into opportunities and get rid of your technology pain points with Connection today. Learn more about what's possible with Connection Public Sector Solutions at connection.com/fedcontracts.
Hike the trail? Check. Order takeout? Check. Schedule heart checkup? Done. We've all adapted to a new way of living. Keep your healthcare on schedule with Johns Hopkins Medicine, where your health and safety are our highest priorities. We're ready to care for you through virtual and in-person visits across Maryland and the greater Washington region. Your health, our experts, safely caring for you. Schedule your care now. Learn more at hopkinsmedicine.org/safe.